bailout started coming, it really pumped things up. And Franken very wisely was a strong critic of the initial bailout plan. And if you notice, if you watch the polling there, that opposition to the bailout, that his noisy criticism of it was a point at which he started to move ahead. And he is in the polling now narrowly ahead.
So he disagrees with Barack Obama on that.
You know, they've all gotten murky on this. Let me be very clear. There's very few people that have the consistency of a Bernie Sanders or a Marcy Kaptur on this issue. And so, you know, once that you got that second stage, it murked up. But what I will tell you is that, yes, Franken still is critical of bailouts to Wall Street. He uses that term, as do a number of the other candidates who, frankly, have come up. The fact of the matter is that bailout is still a very muscular issue, and taking a stronger stand than either McCain or Obama did on it seems to have paid benefits.
You'd think if McCain had come out against it, if that would have been the turning point.
He would be leading in the polls today. I will tell you that. He would be leading in the polls today if he had opposed it.
Well, let's go to Oregon right now. Two campaign ads from the Oregon Senate race between Democratic challenger Jeff Merkley and Republican incumbent Senator Gordon Smith, beginning with Merkley.
I'm Jeff Merkley, and I approve this message.
Why are Barack Obama and Ron Wyden supporting Jeff Merkley for Senate? Because they know only Merkley represents real change, better health care, jobs, and tax cuts for the middle class. So don't believe Gordon Smith's deceptive ads. Smith votes with George Bush 90% of the time, for the war in Iraq, to overturn Roe versus Wade, and to ship our jobs overseas. Smith can't change his record, and he won't change Washington.
On the economy, the difference is clear. Gordon Smith cut taxes for middle-class families. Smith cut taxes on seniors, on farmers, and doubled the child tax credit. Jeff Merkley supported higher income taxes for everyone making more than $10,000, higher gas taxes, and higher property taxes, too. Jeff Merkley, more taxes when we can afford it least.
I'm Gordon Smith, and I approve this ad.
So there you have the current Senator Gordon Smith and his opponent, the Democratic state legislator in Ohio, Jeff Merkley.
Oregon. That's okay. We got Ohio on the mind because of the presidential race. But that's a great race. Jeff Merkley was recruited to run, but mainly because they wanted to have an opponent to Gordon Smith on the chance that Barack Obama took off as a candidate, frankly, because they figured Obama was going to be a good play in a state like Oregon, which he has been. Merkley has really tried to distinguish himself by running left. He has been very outspoken in his opposition to the compromises on FISA, very anti-war, and very, very critical of the bailout. And the fascinating thing is that this has really moved him up. But at core, Merkley is a guy who, as you saw in that ad, is running on Barack Obama's coattails. And there is a Barack Obama coattail effect in the states. Think of it as targeted landslides.
I didn't hear Gordon Smith talking about Republicans.
Didn't mention McCain.
Or even the issue of Republicans in Oregon is another one.
Understand this. Gordon Smith had an ad up this summer in which he frequently referenced how closely he worked with Barack Obama.
In the Senate.
Yes, Gordon Smith was trying to link himself to Obama, and that was because he recognized very early on that Oregon's not going to vote for John McCain. And to Obama's credit, well, or maybe his self-service, he understands he's going to need a substantial Democratic majority in order to govern. And so he moved very quickly into that Oregon race with a strong endorsement of Merkley, putting out statements, you know, allowing the use of his video and pictures of him on Merkley's ads and his website. And I think it has paid off. You know, this is one of those cases where that remarkable boost in registration and turnout for Obama is very likely, not certain, but very likely to carry, in this case, a candidate who's a good deal more progressive than Barack Obama into the Senate.
Let's go to Gordon Smith's cousins in Colorado and New Mexico, the Udalls.
Yes. Now, the Udalls are a fascinating cases. They're both, they're cousins themselves. They're the sons, Tom and Mark, of Stuart and Mo Udall, former members of Congress, kind of Kennedy-era lefties. And they both voted, they're members of Congress now, both voted against the war, both voted against the Patriot Act. I mean, these guys are pretty interesting additions to the Senate, coming out of states currently seats currently held by the Republicans. This is one where we begin to get the picture, Amy, of a very different Senate in 2009 than the one we have today. Not a left-wing Senate, not as progressive a Senate as you saw in the 60s and the 70s on some issues, but one that really does begin to have a different kind of Democratic majority, one where the people came up in this period of opposition to the Bush presidency and casting some courageous and at times dangerous votes. If these folks come in, again, in states where there are some Obama coattails, you could see, a real shift in the Democratic caucus and a shift to the left.
This is Colorado, New Mexico, and overall politics there?
The overall politics in those states is, in both states, competitive. Obama's running hard. McCain is still competing, although dropping back in New Mexico. It looks as if both of the Udall brothers are likely to win their Senate seats. In fact, in New Mexico, the Republicans have essentially dropped out of the race. They've ceded it to Tom Udall, who is a very popular congressman from northern New Mexico.
What about Virginia?
Virginia is a very Republican seat held by Senator Warner, and it's going to be held by Senator Warner after this election. The difference, of course, is that the Senator Warner who's leaving is an older gentleman who's a Republican. The Senator Warner who will take the seat is a younger gentleman, Mark Warner, who's a Democrat.
Talk overall about the national landscape here and what it would mean and what is the possibility of there being a veto-proof majority in the Senate of Democrats.
Well, the key thing to understand is that 60 is the magic number in the Senate. If you have 60 members of the Senate, and they are loyal to you, if they're going to vote with you on the issues, as a president, you can move a great deal of legislation. Filibusters are the key. Don't worry about the veto. Worry about the filibuster. The threat of stopping action in the Senate, which can be a very positive thing at times. I'm an old school progressive who actually likes being able to stop action on wars and things like that. I just wish they used it more. But the vote of 60 breaks any filibuster. And if there are 60 Democrats, or even 57, 58, and a few renegade Republicans, moderates who will vote.
This also gives Lieberman a particularly powerful role.
It gives him the next stage of power, if you will. He will stay in the caucus, rest assured of that, if the Democrats take power, because he doesn't want to give up his committee chairmanship, and frankly, he's very close to Harry Reid. But if you've got a 58, 59 seat Democratic caucus, Lieberman will be in play, as he always is. But interestingly enough, so too will Arlen Specter, Olympia Snowe, some of these more moderate Republicans. The fact is that Barack Obama, and especially in these last weeks of the campaign, has come to recognize how very much he wants a governing majority in the House and the Senate, because he knows, and let's be clear, that this is not going to be an easy presidency if he is elected. The fact of the matter is, dealing with these economic issues, you're going to need a Congress, much like those New Deal Congresses, that would, go with the president on some bold gestures.
John Nichols, thank you for being with us. So, Washington correspondent for The Nation magazine, maintains the blog The Online Beat at thenation.com. Also associate editor of Capital Times, Madison, Wisconsin. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. When we come back, we look at the endorsement of former Secretary